3 bone-chilling true spring break horror stories that will haunt you forever. The sun was setting on the sandy shores of Panama City Beach, casting an eerie orange hue over the throngs of sun-soaked college students. Laughter echoed as waves crashed, but beneath the surface, a dark secret churned. The stories of 3 spring breakers whose fates turned sinister lurked in whispered conversations. You could hear the heavy breaths of fear as they spoke tales so spine-chilling they sent shivers down your spine. What really happened to them? First, there was the girl who disappeared. Lila Baker, an adventurous spirit, excitedly ventured out to explore the rocky cliffside alone. "I'll be back in an hour," she yelled, waving her friends off. But when the night enveloped the beach, she still hadn't returned. Panic bubbled over as her friends scoured the shoreline, desperate calls echoing into the void. The rumors began swirling sightings of shadowy figures, indiscernible whispers carried by the wind, and a heart-stopping scream that pierced the night air. Then, just when you thought hope was lost, a local fisherman found her bag, untouched, half buried in the sand. What did that whispering shadow want, and what had it done to Lila? Then there was the haunted hotel frequented by the party crowd. The old building creaked in protest with every clap of thunder, its rooms steeped in sorrowful tales of guests who had checked in only to check out early, not just early, but as spirits. It was a popular spot for the unsuspecting spring breakers, but the ghost stories were enough to make even the boldest hesitate. People spoke of cold chills wrapping around their necks, of flickering lights that revealed flickering shadows. Everyone brushed it off until the night a group of friends gathered for a party, and one by one, they vanished, leaving behind only sounds of rustling sheets and desperate whispers. Those who dared to return claimed they saw their friends in the hall, but their eyes were empty, soulless. What happened behind those closed doors? Could it be that some were never meant to return? Preston was the last in the legend, a young man reckless in spirit who joined an underground swim challenge. $10 if you dive down to the old shipwreck. A friend dared, laughter ringing in the salty air. They all watched as he dove into the murky depths. The minutes dragged on like hours. Some laughed, others held their breath. When he finally surfaced, panic gripped the crowd. Preston was gasping, clawing at the water and crying out for help. But as he thrashed, something pulled him back, dragging him under. His screams were swallowed by the depths, lost to the terrible unknown. They could only glance at one another, eyes wide with unspeakable dread. How do you fight what you can't even see? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As darkness enveloped the beach, shadows grew longer, and the cool breeze whispered secrets only the ocean knew. The chilling stories of Lila, the haunted hotel, and Preston echoed in the minds of those who had gathered. The night held its breath, waiting. What other horrors would the spring break shockers reveal? Who would be lured next into the chaos? Would anyone dare to uncover the truth, or would they too vanish into the haunting myths forever? As the clock struck midnight, the sounds of laughter faded into an uneasy quiet. The beach was eerily still. Only the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore broke the hush. Someone's phone buzzed, the sudden light illuminating worried faces. That was when Jenna saw it. The reflection in the ocean, glowing like an ominous beacon. "Guys, look," she whispered, pointing into the darkness. But when the group turned, nothing was there. Just shadows, flickering in the corners of their vision. Suddenly, a shriek pierced the calm, sending a chill through everyone. It came from the direction of the haunted hotel. Without thinking, a couple of brave souls from the group, fueled by curiosity and plenty of bravado, decided to investigate. "It'll be fine. Just a ghost story." Tom laughed, flashing a weak smile to mask his own trepidation. Jenna's heart raced. Every logical part of her screamed to stay away. But the others were already moving, a mix of fear and intrigue pushing them forward. The group approached the hotel, its presence looming like a saying dare from a bad dream. The once cheerful exterior now seemed menacing, shadows clinging like thick fog. As they pushed through the old wooden doors, the hinges screamed, a sound echoing in the emptiness like a warning. Inside, it was even worse than the stories. Flickering lights cast twisted shadows along the cracked walls, and an unnatural chill settled over everyone. They stepped into a darkened common room, the air thick with the scent of mildew and something worse. A shiver coursed through Jenna's spine, urging her to turn back, but she couldn't ignore the feeling that something was watching them. "Stay close," a girl named Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. The group huddled together, heartbeats sinking in a cacophony of fear. A sudden noise made them jump. A door creaked open on the second floor, swinging wide, as if inviting them in. "Hello," Tom called, his voice echoing in the vast hall. Silence swallowed his words. It was as if the hotel itself held its breath. Jenna felt a tightness in her chest, the instinct to flee battling the magnetic pull of the unknown. They climbed the staircase, each step groaning like a lament. Jenna's mind raced. The stories of the vanishing friends played grim scenes behind her eyes. Had they potentially stepped into their fate? As they reached the top, the air grew thicker, a palpable weight. A door stood ajar. Without a second thought, Tom pushed it open, and they peered inside. What they saw stopped their hearts. A room filled with old, tarnished mirrors, each reflecting distorted images of themselves, but something was off. In some reflections, they saw silhouettes lurking behind them, shadows that didn't match their own. "Did you see that?" Jenna gasped, her palms sweaty as the terror bubbled inside her, but Tom, emboldened, decided to step inside. "It's just a mirror," he scoffed, his bravado fading with each step. That was when the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Jenna felt a sharp tug on her shoulder, turning to find her friends had vanished. Panic erupted in her chest, and she called out their names. The echoes returned her cries with a deafening silence. Before she could process what was happening, a whisper flooded the air, a chilling voice that seemed to come from every direction. "Stay." Forever it beckoned. Jenna's heart raced wildly as she turned, desperate to escape, but how? Where was everyone? Reaching for her phone, she fumbled it in her trembling hands, just as her flashlight blinked back to life. What she illuminated sent blood rushing to her head. The reflections in the mirrors were no longer just shadows, they were smiling. What unseen force had taken hold of her friends? What had become of the two who had dared to approach the unknown? And in the depth of her fear, one question clawed at her mind: would she become one of them? Jenna stood frozen, paralyzed by terror. The reflections grinning back at her were not just faces, but warped versions of her friends, their expressions ghastly and mocking. She felt her breath quicken, the cold air wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. "This isn't real," she whispered to herself, wishing it away. But just then, the mirrors shimmered, and the smiling images tilted their heads in unison. It was as if they knew her every thought. The smile widened, stretching impossibly large, revealing teeth far too sharp, gleaming in the dim light. "Help us," they mouthed silently, their eyes pleading despite the monstrous grins. Her heart pounded against her ribcage, a frantic drumbeat demanding escape. Why did it feel like those shadows were laughing? Jenna spun around, the chaotic flicker of her flashlight revealing nothing but ominous corners and empty hallways. The air weighed heavy with anticipation. She took a step back, her throat dry, calling out again for her friends. "Where are you?" The call hung in the air, unanswered. The sudden crash echoed from down the hall, shattering the stillness. Without thinking, Jenna darted towards the sound, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Each step felt like running through molasses. The oppressive atmosphere thickened around her like a curse. When she reached the source, it was an abandoned room, furniture askew as if a hurricane had swept through. And there, standing in the center, was Sarah, her eyes wide and expressive, but unseeing. "Sarah!" Jenna yelled, her voice quivering. "What are you doing?" Sarah didn't respond. Instead, she locked onto a tall, ornate mirror propped against the wall. In the dim light, it shimmered with an enticing glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jenna felt the pull, a dread that hinted at secrets waiting just behind the reflective surface. As she approached Sarah, the whispers escalated, swirling around her like a tempest. "Stay, join us," they coaxed, the collective voices of her friends echoing in dark harmony. Jenna's gut twisted. The chilling realization that this place fed on fear washed over her, filling every fiber of her being with dread. "Sarah, let us go," Jenna pleaded, grabbing her friend's arm. But Sarah's gaze remained transfixed, unfocused, her expression distorted as if torn between worlds. "Jenna, it's beautiful," she mumbled, eyes glazed over. Before Jenna could react, a flash of light illuminated the mirror's surface, reflecting visions of other trapped souls, all those who had come before her, their faces twisted in horror and despair, yet still smiling eerily. Jenna stumbled back, terror like ice in her veins. "No, this can't be happening." Suddenly, the lights flickered again, growing fainter until they nearly extinguished. Jenna fought against the grip of terror, closing her eyes to block out the haunting sight. "Wake up! This isn't real," she shrieked, forcing herself to turn away from the mirrors, from the whispers. The hotel was hungry for her fear, for their despair. When she opened her eyes again, she was not in the room. Instead, she stood at the edge of the staircase, heart pounding in her ears. Confusion swirled. Had she left her friends behind? Had they succumbed? A chill ran down her spine when she glanced back toward the room. Shadows flitted across the doorway, figures moving just beyond her vision. The chilling whispers returned, drowning out her thoughts. "Join us, forever." She was trapped in a waking nightmare. The hotel was alive, and now it wanted her. The air thickened as Jenna took a stumbling step backward, her instincts screaming at her to run. As she turned, desperate to flee down the staircase, she heard a soft voice behind her, too familiar. "Jenna, come back. We're waiting for you." The realization crushed her. The images, the whispers, they were luring her deeper into darkness. She needed to get out. But would she escape, or would she too be consumed? With every ounce of strength, she raced down the hall, drawing closer to the front door as the only way out. Her friends were somewhere in the shadows, lost, trying to break free. And then she heard it again, that dreadful invitation. "Stay." Forever it echoed after her as she sprinted, the walls closing in around her. Would she reach the exit in time, or would she become just another reflection? All she knew was she had to keep running, before it was too late. Jenna barreled down the dim hallway, her pulse racing ahead of her footsteps. Each second felt stretched, the distance to the front doors an eternity. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, taunting her with their indecipherable forms. She could almost hear the whispers coiling around her like a python. Stay floated through the air again, pulling at her heart, dangling the promise of her friend's safety on the other side of the mirror's facade. Panic surged inside her like a tidal wave, crashing against her thoughts. I want tea, let you take me," she shouted, her voice breaking, rising above the encroaching whispers. She lunged forward, eyes locked on the exit framed by flickering overhead lights. With every step, the shadows pressed closer, dark tendrils curling into her thoughts. It felt like running in molasses, the air thick and heavy, casting doubt on her ability to escape. And then she tripped. The world flipped, and she landed hard on the cold, gritty floor. Pain shot through her knees and palms, but she pushed herself up, bloodied and breathless. The door was just a few strides away. She could see the lights spilling from the cracks. As Jenna rose, she glimpsed movement out of the corner of her eye. It was Sarah, stepping out of the shadows, her eyes gleaming with something Jenna couldn't place. "Jenna, I found them," she said softly, her voice a haunting echo. "Found what?" Jenna gasped, dread pooling in her stomach. "What are you talking about? We need to leave." "They're here," Sarah whispered, gesturing behind her. Jenna's heart sank at the sight of familiar faces coalescing from the shadows, twisted yet recognizable friends long lost to the darkness. Their smiles were not true joy. They were invitations steeped in horror, an allure that whispered of oblivion. They beckoned her forward, eyes glistening under the faint glow of the flickering lights. "No," Jenna screamed, backing away frantically. "You're not real. You can't take me with you." The friends, all distorted reflections of their former selves, started to move closer, their hands outstretched. "Join us, it's beautiful," they chanted in a chilling unison that sent shivers down Jenna's spine. They were no longer individuals. They had been melded into something sinister, a dark chorus luring her to join their endless despair. Desperately, Jenna turned, searching for any weapon or barrier she could use. But the hotel had taken on a life of its own. The walls resonated with laughter now, a deep, guttural sound that echoed all around her. In that moment, desperation sparked a sudden idea. She remembered the stories she'd heard, the power of names, the strength they held. "Sarah," she yelled, locking eyes with her friend. "Fight this. You're stronger than this place." For a split second, Sarah's eyes flickered with confusion, as if peering through fog. The other figures faltered momentarily, hesitation rippling through their forms. "Fight it. Whatever's controlling you, it's not real," Jenna urged again. The whispers waned, just a touch, but she noticed it. Energy was building, a glimmer of hope blooming in the depths of terror. As Jenna began to turn back toward the door, she felt a cold grip wrap around her ankle. She screamed as she stumbled to the ground. The shadows, hungry and desperate, began to pull her back toward the swirling darkness. "Jenna, help us!" Sarah's voice rang out, her hands reaching for her friend in an agonizing conflict. With a strength spurred by sheer survival, Jenna lunged toward the exit, dragging herself along the floor. She could feel the weight of the shadows pulling her, could feel every ounce of sinister energy fueling their desperate cries. "No, I refuse," Jenna shouted, breaking the chains of despair that sought to bind her. With a last, defiant surge, she broke free from their grasp. A crash resounded in an explosion of glass as Jenna flung herself forward, pushing through the doorway into the night air. She stumbled outside, gasping for breath, heart thundering in her chest. The hotel loomed behind her, dark and oppressive, but for the first time, she saw the door close, the whispers fading, though the memory of their pleas haunted her deeply. But was it truly over? As she turned to flee into the darkness, Jenna's heart dropped when she glanced back. Sarah stood at the window, her form illuminated briefly by the moonlight, a fragile reflection of the girl Jenna once knew trapped. With a mournful smile that screamed for help, time froze, and Jenna was left with a chilling truth. The door may be shut, but the battle was far from over. Would she find a way to save her friend, or had she sealed their fate forever? Jenna gasped, her mind racing as she took in the horrifying sight of Sarah trapped behind that spectral glass. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in her ears, drowning out the wind's howls. She staggered backward on shaky legs, her mind racing with thoughts of escape, yet haunted by the face she knew so well, the girl who used to giggle at inside jokes and share secrets. "Please, Sarah," Jenna cried out one last time, her voice cracking with desperation. "Fight it. You have to fight." But Sarah's smile faded into a void of despair. Jenna fought against the gut-wrenching realization. It was clear now Sarah was lost. The others, her friends, their chants still echoed in her memory, twisted and warped, desperate to pull her back. No, Jenna thought, shaking her head as if to disperse the shadows swirling around her. This wasn't the time for defeat. She had to find a way to save Sarah. But how? She turned and bolted toward the tree-line, the moonlight guiding her path. Each footfall was a race against the darkness. The hotel had to be behind her now, but its fabric felt woven into the very air she breathed. It was as if the ground pulsed with the weight of shadows, hoping to drag her back into its claustrophobic embrace. The whispering echoed in her ears, hauntingly distant, yet ever-present. "Stay, join us." The world around her seemed to vibrate with its sinister allure. Jenna stumbled but pressed on, feeling a surge of adrenaline propel her forward. Ahead, a dilapidated shed came into view, a pile of wood and rust, looming ominously against the night sky. She remembered snippets of lore whispered among friends about the hotel, tales of those who got lost forever within its walls, never to be seen again. She may not have much time. As she reached the shed, a sudden flicker caught Jenna's eye. A splintered door hung ajar, creaking as if beckoning her inside. It was the only option she had. She pushed it open and stepped inside, shadows waiting eagerly to embrace her. Inside, the shed was crammed with old furniture and forgotten trinkets that seemed more alive than inanimate. Dust floated like spirits in the moonlight, swirling around her as she searched for something, anything, to help. Then she saw a dusty mirror, cracked at the corners, its glass reflecting the chaos of her heart. A shiver raced down her spine as she approached it, drawn in by some inexplicable force. Could it be a way to reach Sarah? Please, she whispered, her voice barely above a tremor. This mirror could provide answers or open new horrors. Jenna placed her hands on its surface, feeling a shock of cold race up her arms. Sarah, she cried again, desperation spilling from her lips. I'm here. I'm coming for you. The mirror rippled. To her surprise, a visage formed a blurry reflection of Sarah's face, filled with anguish yet shimmering with a tiny spark of hope. Sarah's voice echoed from the surface, faint and strained. You have to break it. The mirror is a barrier between us. Break it. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest. But what will that do? You have to trust me, Sarah urged, and for a fleeting moment, the darkness behind her friend receded, revealing glimpses of her former self. You have to break the cycle. Jenna hesitated, doubts swimming in her gut. What if breaking the mirror unleashed more shadows? What if it became the end for both of them? But as she watched Sarah's despairing eyes, Jenna felt the weight of their bond and the gravity of choice. Summoning every ounce of courage, she spotted a rusted old hammer on a shelf. With trembling hands, she picked it up, her breath steadying as she turned toward the mirror. Here goes nothing. Just as her hammer began to swing, the temperature in the room plummeted, frost creeping up the mirror's edges, and Jenna froze. A chilling melody rose from the shadows, whispering sweetly, promising everything she desired in exchange for her surrender. Would she shatter the barrier for hope or succumb to the allure of darkness? Time stretched, and Jenna stood on the brink, caught between two worlds, one of light and one of haunting. Despair did I in that moment. As her hammer descended, doubt shadowed her resolve. Was breaking the mirror their chance, or a path to a deeper nightmare? The chaos of fate hung in the air, waiting for her next move. The moment Jenna's hammer hit the mirror, a thunderous crack echoed through the shed, sending shards of glass spiraling into the air like deadly confetti. Time seemed to stretch in that instant, reality bending and warping around her. The reflection rippled violently, Sarah's face flickering in and out of view. Desperation etched into every delicate feature. A gust of icy wind swept through the shed, extinguishing the faint glow of the moonlight that had flickered through the door. Shadows danced hungrily against the shed's walls, thickening around Jenna like a fog of despair. She staggered back, her heart racing as she felt the air transform, heavy with malevolent energy, and the whispers grew louder. Join us, stay forever. Jenna fought against the tide of darkness that threatened to engulf her. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. I want to leave you, Sarah, she shouted, her voice barely breaking through the cacophony of whispers. But above the noise, Jenna began to see the mirror's surface contort. It was no longer just reflecting the shattered pieces of her world. It twisted into a swirling vortex of dark and light, pulling at her very essence. She struggled to regain her balance, but the edges of the room began to dissolve like sand, disappearing into an unfathomable void. Jenna, Sarah's voice broke through again, stronger this time. You have to finish it. Only you can save us. With renewed resolve, Jenna lunged toward the remains of the mirror, shards clattering against the wooden floor like a rain of tiny bells. I'm here. I'm coming. As Jenna swept up the biggest piece of glass, its jagged edge glinted cruelly in the fading light. She raised it to her own reflection, and through the fragments, she could see Sarah reach out toward her, the shadows momentarily shifting backward, revealing the friend she once knew. I believe in you, Sarah cried, her voice echoing with a strange mixture of hope and fear. But you have to break the curse. In that moment, a surge of determination flooded Jenna. She could feel the weight of countless lives trapped behind the veil of shadows. With every ounce of strength she could muster and the memory of laughter and friendship driving her, Jenna lifted the shard higher, ready to thrust it through the threshold of darkness. Before she could plunge it downward, a violent wave of energy erupted, throwing her backward against the wall with bone-jarring force. Everything went dark. When Jenna opened her eyes again, she was not in the shed. She was standing on a desolate shore, waves crashing around her feet, the sky a foreboding gray. Confusion clawed at her mind. What happened? She murmured. In the distance, shadows wove and twisted along the coastline, forming distorted figures that glared with empty eyes. She felt cold, the salt of the sea mingling with the fear that gripped her. "Sarah!" Jenna shouted, turning around to call into the abyss. "Where are you?" The shadows swirled, and in their depths, she could see flashes of familiar faces, the faces of her friends, each drowning in despair, calling out as they were pulled under by invisible currents. Jenna's blood ran cold. No, she couldn't lose them too. Then, she heard it, a soft, haunting melody rising from the depths of the ocean, filled with sorrow yet hinting at the echoes of a past long forgotten. It was an invitation and a warning all at once. Jenna teetered on the edge of the shore, scanning the waves for any sign of Sarah. Suddenly, a figure rose from the water, splashing gracefully into view. It was Sarah. But she looked different, ethereal, the light gleaming off her translucent skin like a fading star. "Help us, Jenna," she cried, her voice distorted, a frantic plea that made Jenna's heart pound. "You have to embrace the darkness to save us." The shadows deepened around Jenna, pulling tighter, forming a swirling cyclone of chaotic energy. Jenna's chest tightened with the weight of indecision. Did she dare to step into the unknown, to risk her very soul for the chance to save her friends, her life, and Sarah? As the tides surged, Jenna stood at the precipice of the supernatural battle, her heartbeat drowning out the relentless tide. "What do I do?" she gasped, clenching her fists, trapped between fear and her love for her friends. The answer raced toward her like a wave. Would she dare to plunge into the abyss or find a way to cut through the darkness? The ocean roared with its secrets, and Jenna teetered on the edge, torn between light and endless night. Jenna's breath caught in her throat as Sarah's gaze pierced through the chaos. The ethereal figure shimmered in the dim light, tears glistening on her cheeks, giving way to a heart-wrenching combination of fear and faith. "Please, Jenna, you have to take my hand." At that moment, shadows undulated around Jenna's feet, creeping up her legs like cold fingers, ensnaring her in an inevitable grasp. The melody from the ocean danced cruelly in her ears, a siren's song laced with despair. She felt every heartbeat resonate with the cries of her friends trapped beneath the waves, and the heaviness in her chest threatened to crush her. "Sarah!" Jenna shouted, stepping precariously closer to the water, her toes sinking into the wet sand. "But what if I can't do it?" "Trust yourself." Sarah's voice trembled, a flicker of pure vulnerability. "That is how you break the curse. You have to confront what you fear the most." The wind whipped at Jenna's face, chilling her to the bone. She thought of the countless nights spent laughing and sharing secrets around the campfire with Sarah and the others. It felt like a lifetime ago, a memory she clung to desperately. Jenna glanced at the shadows swirling around her friends' faces, their anguished cries whispering promises of eternal darkness if she failed. As she prepared to leap into the waves, her heart raced with the weight of her decision. She took a moment to close her eyes, allowing the memories to flood her mind, the jovial moments of friendship that painted laughter in her heart, the promises made under the stars. Would she let fear snatch them away? "Okay," she yelled into the storm. "I'll do it. I'll take the risk." With resolve coursing through her veins, Jenna sprinted into the water, piercing the surface as if it would reveal answers hidden from her. The frigid ocean enveloped her, chilling her bones, but it was an awakening. In that moment, the shadows recoiled at her determination, swirling violently as she swam farther from the shore. The water tugged and pulled, threatening to drag her down into its depths, yet Jenna fought to keep her head above the tumultuous waves. She strained her eyes, searching for Sarah among the shadows. "Where are you?" she called, panic rising in her chest. Then, as if summoned by her call, Sarah emerged from the abyss. "You're almost there, Jenna. Embrace the darkness with courage. Only then can we all be free." The crashing waves roared louder, a cacophony of despair and hope battling like two titans, each grappling for her soul. Jenna's heart pounded in rhythm with the sea, and she felt a sliver of something else, a flicker of power igniting within her. She stretched her arms out, inviting the darkness, daring it to engulf her. "Come at me," she cried, ready to face the void. "I'm not afraid anymore." As the shadows recoiled and then surged toward her, Jenna felt a rush of warmth burst inside her chest. Suddenly, the darkness took a different shape, It became a canvas for her deepest fears. Glimpses of those she lost, moments of betrayal and regret flooded her mind, swirling into a chaotic maelstrom. But through it, Sarah's face remained steadfast. "Believe in the light, Jenna," she shouted, and those words pierced through the darkness with palpable force. That moment, Jenna understood. This was not just a battle against shadows. It was about confronting herself, embracing every part of her story, light and dark alike. A force surged forward from within her, her voice, her memories, and her love all joined in a crescendo that echoed against the relentless tide. The shadows quivered, crashing back as though struck by lightning. "You will not take them," Jenna shouted, her heart pounding, energy radiating outwards like a beacon. But even as she felt her strength grow, Jenna could not ignore the whispers of dread lingering just at the edges of her consciousness. With the shadows retreating, a terrible question loomed large in the air. Would the sacrifices she was making be enough? As silence enveloped her for the first time, Jenna's eyes widened with realization. She was still standing in the water, but just beyond was an eerie calm. The ocean lay still, observing her like a predator. Is this the end? She wondered aloud, fear creeping back as she sensed the shadows gathering for one final strike. The darkness bristled, a storm ready to break loose. Jenna took a deep breath, nerves electrified beneath her skin. With everything hanging in balance, the tide was about to turn. With a choking gasp, Jenna felt the air around her thicken, pressing in like hands tightening around her throat. The stillness of the sea became deceptive, a calm surface that belied the monstrous chaos brewing beneath. Fear twisted in her stomach as she scanned the horizon, realizing Sarah's figure flickered like a faulty light bulb. The shadows were regrouping, dark tendrils slithered through the water, stretching towards her, hungry and relentless. "Jenna!" Sarah's voice crackled through the shadows, becoming softer, more distant with every wave. Panic surged through Jenna. "You have to, I want to let them take you," Jenna shouted, her voice trembling, an unyielding blend of determination and desperation. She could feel the terrified whispers of her friends merging into a symphony of anguish, their faces haunted and pleading from the depths below. But even with her surge of newfound power, Jenna felt herself unsteady, a vessel rocking in an ocean of doubt. What if her courage was fleeting? What if the shadows were more powerful than she ever imagined? Just then, the water churned violently around her legs, pulling her under. She gasped, swallowing seawater as she fought to surface. A deep, guttural sound echoed through the tide, a haunting laugh that sent chills racing down her spine. It didn't just belong to the shadows. It was woven into the very fabric of the sea, mocking her efforts. Desperation ignited a fire deep in her chest. Jenna focused on the memories of laughter around the campfire, the warmth of friendship enveloping her like a cocoon. "No," she screamed defiantly, her voice breaking through the chaos. "You don't get to take this from me. I will fight." With each breath, she envisioned herself stronger, channeling the light from within. A shimmering glow began to flicker at her fingertips, pushing back against the darkness circling around her. "We're not afraid." The shadows thrashed wildly, trying to claw their way in. But as Jenna called upon her inner strength, a blinding light burst forth, pushing back against the creeping tendrils. She could see Sarah again, a fierce spark of hope igniting in her eyes. "That's it. Keep pushing. You're stronger than they think." But alongside the light came an unsettling weight, a chilling sense of sacrifice hanging over Jenna like a storm cloud ready to spill. She couldn't escape the feeling that with every ounce of power she summoned, she was offering something in return. What would it cost her? What remnants of herself would be left after this battle? Just as she steadied herself, the shadows reformed, morphing into a massive, grotesque figure that towered above her, its form an undulating mass of darkness, eyes glowing like hot coals. "You think you can defy me?" It sneered, its voice a rumble that shook her bones. "You're nothing but a flicker in my realm." Jenna quivered under its gaze. "I'm not nothing." She shot back, conviction pouring from her like an unstoppable wave. "I am my friends, my memories, my love. You can't take them." She surged forward, defiance roaring inside her as she prepared to face this terrible manifestation head-on. But before she could unleash the brightness pulsing within her, the ocean erupted again. Surges of water shot up, sweeping Jenna off her feet and throwing her into a whirlpool of swirling chaos. Her world morphed into a blur of salt water and shadows. One last thought anchored her in place. "Sarah," she called, her voice barely audible over the thunderous waves. But even as desperation clawed at her heart, shadows enveloped her, and darkness closed in like a shroud. The faint glow of Sarah's light flickered out. Jenna felt herself slipping away into the void. Was this truly the end, or just the beginning of something even darker? The ocean felt alive, and as her consciousness faded, the abyss whispered secrets that chilled her bones. Then, in the suffocating darkness, a flicker of a memory caught her attention. Something resolute, something she had to remember. Is it possible to find strength in the shadows? She thought, a question hanging heavy in the back of her mind as she fought against the current. But would she find it before it was too late? Her heart raced, fighting against the inevitable as both dread and determination collided. Then all at once, darkness gave way to a new sound, a distant, haunting melody that beckoned her further into the abyss. What was the source of that chilling song? Who or what was truly calling? Only time would tell. Jenna felt a jolt not of fear, but of intense yearning as the melody wrapped around her like a warm embrace. It was both beautiful and terrifying, pulling her deeper into the shadowy depths. As the sound swelled, something shifted inside her, urging her to listen. The shadows receded momentarily, shimmering and swirling like smoke. Jenna strained to comprehend the song, a desperate call resonating with ancient sorrow. It seemed to carry the weight of lost secrets, forgotten dreams, and something even darker, a promise of power that sent shivers down her spine. "Where are you?" Jenna whispered, her voice fragile in the overwhelming silence. "Show me what you want." The song morphed, becoming a chorus of whispers, soft, coaxing, yet filled with an eerie undertone. They spoke of fear turning into strength, of the shadows harboring untold power, if only one was brave enough to seize it. An image flashed in her mind, a vision of herself, standing amidst the swirling chaos, commanding the darkness instead of running from it. Suddenly, a thin line of light cut through the oppressive blackness before her, a faint, guiding star. She reached for it, her hand slicing through the water as if it were air. With each stroke, she felt the melody transform, becoming less haunting and more empowering. There was a chance to entwine herself with the darkness and emerge unbroken. "No." Jenna shook her head, fighting against the overwhelming draw. "I want to give in." But her resolution wavered, as the shadows, sensing her hesitation, surged forward. An ink-black wave rolled toward her, its surface shimmering like oil. Inside, she could see reflections of her friends, distorted and pleading. They were the anchor she desperately needed, grounding her in the rising tide of chaos. "I'm still here," Jenna shouted, summoning the memory of their laughter, their unity. "Together," she cried out, rallying every ounce of strength. They had faced fears before, this time was no different. The wounds left by darkness would define their bond. They had power in togetherness. The overwhelming darkness twisted, faltering in the face of her declaration. For a fleeting moment, she saw Sarah's light break through again, brighter than before. "Jenna, let it flow through you. Don't resist." Sarah's encouragement spurred Jenna on. With a surge of desperation, Jenna channeled her emotions, fear, courage, anger, love, all bound together into a single force. The light in her began to grow, merging with the darkness and creating a vivid flash that illuminated even the farthest reaches of the abyss. The shadows screeched, twisting and warping in agony, but Jenna found herself standing on solid ground, a surreal sight, a confrontation of polarities. Shockwaves of energy danced between her hands as she redefined the chaos swirling around her, urging it to take shape and be controlled. But beneath this triumph, unease began to claw at her from the corners of her mind. What had she unleashed? And what if control came at an unbearable cost? At that moment, the ocean roiled, threatening to drag her under again. The strands of darkness writhed eagerly, desperate to reclaim their hold. And there, lurking in the chaos, was that grotesque manifestation again, now seething with fury. "If you think you can defy me and walk away unpunished, you're mistaken," the figure bellowed, its eyes blazing with an ancient fury. Jenna stood resolute, the frightening power surging through her. I didn't come this far to turn back now. I choose my fate. But just as she prepared to solidify her resolve, the melody returned, this time stronger and infused with a darker undertone, as if calling her into its depths once again. Would she succumb to the song, or could she overpower it? The clash was imminent. Would she emerge victorious, or would the melody envelop her whole, leading her deeper into obscurity? Jenna's breath quickened. The battle was far from over. What was the true depth of the shadow's invitation, and would answering it lead her to salvation or doom? Only the unfolding moments would unveil the answers. The ocean churned, each wave collapsing like a heartbeat, reminding Jenna of the stakes. She stood, the weight of their fates pressing down like a cloak of shadows, and her heart raced with a raw urgency. I will not be your pawn, she shouted, each word cutting through the air with intention. The darkness hissed, recoiling slightly, as if shocked by her defiance. But the shadows swelled again, the great figure looming larger over her, malice rolling off it in waves. You think you can fight me? Your friends are mine. You can't escape. It jeered. Jenna stepped forward, each footfall echoing defiance. No, she yelled. They're not yours. They're with me. As she shouted, the light inside her glowed fiercely, a beacon pushing back against the oppressive weight. Suddenly, Jenna focused on the memories that made her who she was: laughter around campfires, late-night talks, dreams shared beneath starlit skies. A warm rush surged through her, igniting a glow beneath her skin. The shadows faltered, ebbing back slightly, and with each recollection, she called on their light. We stand together, she cried, and in that moment, she felt her friends Sarah, Lila, Preston right there with her. Their spirits flowed into her, bolstering her resolve. The air thickened, and the grotesque embodiment of despair lunged. You're weak. You'll never escape. It screeched, its limbs stretching to ensnare her. But Jenna's pulse quickened. She felt their strength and decided that this moment was the pivot point. Together, she roared, stretching out her hands. The shadows writhed against her will like a storm desperate to crush her, but she anchored herself in love, courage, and fierce determination. Light poured forth from Jenna's heart, expanding like a supernova, illuminating everything. The shadows screamed, twisting into shapes of terror, but they couldn't withstand the force of pure connection, of true friendship. With a final push, Jenna surrendered to the light, allowing it to engulf her and the darkness that threatened her. As the light consumed the shadows, Jenna felt them shifting, morphing. The darkness shrieked in defeat. No, it howled, shattering like glass into 1,000 dark whispers. And at that moment, she felt Sarah's warmth through the chaos, as if her friend was right there beside her. Yes, Sarah cheered, and suddenly, the shadows that had tormented her friends began to fade. Jenna squeezed her eyes shut, pressing into the light, feeling it penetrate the clouds of despair. The tendrils of darkness slithered back into the depths. The monstrous figure lost its form and dissipated like smoke in the wind. With a gasp, Jenna opened her eyes again. Silence enveloped her. The air was still. She stood on a beach, the golden sand warm beneath her feet, the tide calmly curling at her ankles. Confusion swam in her head. Had it worked? The soft sound of laughter captured her attention. Turning, she was met with familiar faces. Preston, Lila, Sarah, each looking vibrant and alive. Relief washed over her like the tide, lifting the last remnants of fear from her heart. Jenna, they shouted, running toward her, and just like that, the panic that had gripped her heart fell away. You did it, Sarah exclaimed, hugging Jenna tightly. You saved us. Jenna laughed, the joy bubbling up from deep within, echoing a feeling of triumph. I couldn't have done it without you guys. I had to remember us together. The friends stood arm in arm, overshadowed by the horizon painted in hues of orange and pink. Freedom hung thick in the air, but Jenna knew that the memory of darkness would persist. We'll always have to be vigilant, she said softly, her fingers entwined with Sarah's. That darkness could come back if we let our fear take over again. So what do we do? Preston asked, looking at her with bright eyes. We face it together, Jenna responded, feeling the strength of their bond grounding her. We create our own light. And with that, They turned back toward the waves, hands raised in defiance against what had threatened to tear them apart. Laughter echoed in the vast openness, rising above the whispers of a cool breeze, a melody of hope to banish despair. As the sun sank below the horizon, a promise hung faintly in the twilight. Together, they would never walk alone. And to you, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to subscribe to stay tuned for the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Smash the like button, feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and wild theories about the ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely must see this conclusion. This is your chance to be part of the story.